Yeah, the hierarchy principles are, they're basically put in place to protect everything in the proper sequence. The first thing is the land, the second thing is the blood tribe to the land, the third thing is the community, the fourth is the individual, and then lastly the corporate side of it.
I like to describe it as hitching your wagon to our train, because we know where we're going, we've got a solution, we've had a solution for a long time. At the moment, most people are still Australian citizens, and they don't realise that they have the ability to become tribal as well and not give up their citizenship. And from that perspective, it's been mind-blowing to see the potential that we've got now in attracting people like you. It literally is that people are being drawn to us that can add and
like-minded people.
Yeah,
you're looking
add
for.
to our energy. That's exactly right. Add to our concept. Add to everything that goes with it. So,
by adhering to that structure, everything just flows. Everything will come together properly. It's not like your normal development where it's based purely on greed and I, me, me, my, me. It's based on the concept of sharing and jointly owning and jointly being a part of everything. You need people that have actually got a bit of forward sight, a bit of vision, can see what can happen, and are happy to work together as a community.
You're on the same page.
Yeah, simple as that.
Yeah.
the project that we're involved with, Gunham and myself and Derek and a number of others, is called Nightcap Village Development. It's Nightcap on Minjungbal. We're in if you like, a joint venture with the tribe in relation to returning back to tribal ways, cultural ways, coming from the heart, do no harm, and respecting the mother, the sacred country that we're on. We're on a very sacred parcel of land here in northern New South Wales. We have significant resources all over it, unlimited water, unlimited power, sunshine. It's a community that's being built around the town that we already own, which is a town by the name of Mount Burrell, here in northern New South Wales. We are treaty members of the Minjungbal tribe, which brings the sovereignty aspect of the land, of the continent, of the people, the custodians who have been here for 50,000 years. Tribal law still exists on this land. It has existed on this land from time immemorial, and the reality is that just because the British turned up and stuck the stick in the ground with a rag on it, and it wasn't even the rag that everyone thinks it is, doesn't mean that they overtook this nation of people that lived here before. And they have no jurisdiction, and the laws do not apply to the tribal people of this continent. That has been accepted and recognised many times over. But the reality is that this is tribal land, and we are under tribal law as our governing law. Thereafter, we are happy to meld back in with the matrix.
Johnny cake is the same mixture as damper or scones. Same mixture. Yeah, come on, baby. Well, if this doesn't rise, I won't get out of bed tomorrow morning. But this is the secret here. See when you go like this, see? But that's the secret, that's rolling it like that, see? What happened when Mary had the lamb? What happened? The doctor fainted. What's the other name for him? What's the other name? Manang, bro. Manang. Manang. But that's without me. Good. Without me self-declaring.
Is it Manang?
Manang. Very
Manang.
close. On behalf of the people that's gone before us, the old elders and nanangs and you name it, but I'm saying that this is a very special day, and to give respect to the land and the people, like Big Brother just said a minute ago. I'll give you over to Dean first, Dean Rodamar.
Thanks, folks. Welcome anyway. It's a pretty good occasion. We'll give thanks to all the people who have actually helped with all this project, get it to where it needs to be. And we hope it's long and prosperous. All right, Marco, you want to say something?
Thanks, brother. Yeah, g'day, my name is Mark Cora, so I currently live up around the Tweed. So I'm a Minjungbal man, as these gentlemen are too, and basically I've grown up on the Gold Coast in the Tweed area all of my life. Been able to see there's my uncle here, pulling in mullet nets along the beach. The only fella that could actually see mullet at night and catch fish at night with a net. So, but basically what I've just done then is shared with you a Dreamtime story. We have these Dreamtime stories that ancient writings from way back that showed everything, talked about everything basically, but what they are about is behaviour, human behaviour, talking about how do we interact with each other. But more importantly, our interaction is then the interaction with this land, with all land. So the importance of this project and what we're doing here today is we are coming back to the land as the original owners, and yous are joining us, and I cannot say how grateful and thankful that yous are all here standing around this today, because this is history and everything is falling into place in perfect timing. As we have just seen all of this stuff that's gone on, this is the type of answers we need as a community, as a human being. This is what we need. So yeah, we are history makers. And me and Dean and Uncle sort of been plugging away at this for a long time, didn't know which way. Then we met these gentlemen between Mark and AB and that, and the ball just started rolling. And it wasn't as if we didn't know what we were doing, but things were positioned, things were put in place. And it wasn't easy. There was a lot of difficulties and a lot of challenges, and a lot of times it wasn't going to happen. But I think that belief, that energy, is what got us here today. So all I'd like to say is thank you very much. Thank you to our old people for positioning us so that this could happen. There's a lot of old people out there that have a smile on their face because of this action. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to just, certainly from my perspective, say, my personal thanks to Gunham, but without him, none of us would have this opportunity. We would simply be with the rest of the people looking for some type of solution or something to get away from what is coming our way, and it's never going back to the way it was. It is all about changing our paradigm and changing what we do, and having people that can see things that we, potentially are unable to see for whatever reason, and surrounding ourselves with those people, Gunham, Max Egan, it's a very different world that we're living in. So I'm extremely blessed and grateful to have been given this opportunity by the universe and to meet the people that we've done, and this just grows exponentially. I've spoken to pretty much every single one of you for many hours, and I'm just so pleased that you're part of our team and part of what we're doing in the community, that we're building an amazing space here. We're going to have something that has never been done ever in this country, and certainly from the tribal perspective, where we come back to heart and back to true volition of what we want to do with the land and the development for the people that are in it. So I, for one, am extremely proud of where we've gotten to, and it's been 4.5 years of just a shit fight to make sure that we did exactly what we said we were going to do, which was do no harm and to create something amazing. No matter what, we're going to make sure this is done. And So anyway, got him.
Oh look, I'd just like to thank everyone else for everyone that's here for actually having the eyes to see and the ears to hear and the heart to feel. I've got nothing to do with this other than the spirits led me to a certain awakening and a certain knowledge that I felt was absolutely imperative that I get to as many people as I could. The thing that has to date and that will continue to lead this project is the Spirit. Yeah, I'm not talking about the Holy Spirit, brothers. No, I'm talking about the real deal. We saw this week a perfect example of what happens if we just stand still and rest and let the ancestors guide what happens with country. And if we go through this development of these areas with that in mind, as we are being careful to not disturb or disrupt any of the sacred sites and to show respect to country's going to show respect to us, and it's going to feed us and it's going to nurture us and it's going to keep us safe, like any mother would.
Can you explain that in like dummy terms? I don't want to say dummy terms, but in simple terms, like how they've persuaded us to ignore all of this, all the common law, all the not common law, but all the natural law,
all the common sense law,
all the common sense, and how they've structured this system, which is full of statutories and.
Well, the statute is the bylaw of a corporation. That's why everything under the Crown is done in statute, because the Crown is a corporation. It's a Crown corporation from the City of London. It's as simple as that. Cold, hard fact. Do your research. That corporation believes that it can, in unison with idiots like Bill Gates, use programs like vaccinations and forced vaccinations, social scores like they're practicing in China at the moment, all this sort of stuff to control their minions, their slaves. Well, I am not one of Bill Gates' slaves. I am not subservient to any government like the Commonwealth of Australia that has a Prime Minister who will openly and flagrantly, at the taxpayer's expense, fly a pedophile with him to Washington to sit down and have dinner with the President of the United States. I will not be a party to that. The Parliaments of Australia would claim that they hold what's called parliamentary sovereignty, which anybody who has got a sound legal mind would know that that's nothing but absolute rubbish. How a corporation can hold sovereignty over a human being is just beyond legal possibility. Corporate government isn't plugged into the reality. They're plugged into a corporate reality, and if the corporate reality says, listen, see these blackfellas over here, them arseholes, they're sovereigns, they actually own the country. So what we've got to do is we've got to slowly eliminate them because we didn't do what we should have done 150 years ago, and that's wiped the fuckers out. Right? So what they're trying to do now is they're trying to do it quietly. Have a look at the incarceration rates, for example, in the Northern Territory. Have a look at the incarceration rates in the Northern Territory of tribal peoples up there, and have a look at the same statistics for South Africa in the middle of the apartheid regime. The apartheid regime would be ecstatic if they could have achieved the heights that the Northern Territory government has. The government thought they had everything covered. They thought they'd removed all the documents from the records. They thought they had everything covered. There was no backtracking. No one was ever going to be able to sit down and read all this shit and get their heads across it laterally. Yeah, well, someone did. It's kind of insulting that they thought that no one ever would, because I don't think it was really that hard. It was a lot of work and a lot of mental strain, but they didn't hide it really well. They hid a lot of stuff in plain sight, because they had to. They had to maintain their lie. Their comments, like for example, their comments that all of the attorneys general in writing have stated clearly that they believe, or that it is legal fact, that Arthur Phillip took radical title and sovereignty over the continent when he turned up and he stuck the stick in the ground with the flag on it. Well, 8 years after he did that, in 1796, the Judge Advocate General recorded in his diary that he had just had a conversation in July, I believe it was, 6th of July 1796, that he just had a conversation with Bennelong, and Bennelong had told him that how his people to that day retained their hereditary title over their land, over their estates. And I find it kind of incongruous with the bullshit put about by the Commonwealth of Australia that they took radical title and sovereignty here when Arthur Phillip stuck the stick in the ground. When 8 years later they're admitting that the tribal people maintain their sovereign title. You know, just another one of their lies.
Today is the a momentous day. We're actually taking the sign down on the property that we've just reacquired in both realms, and in fact the most important of that is the reclamation of the Minjungbal and the tribe coming back to country. So this land is now sold. It has been bought back at auction by us in every sense of the word, from the tribal aspect to the commercial aspect, and full title will be coming to the community in every respect for this place. So Gunham, was there anything that you wanted to say in relation to that?
No, I'd just like to rip this out of the ground, because that's what we did to them.
All right, well, let's do it. Here we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. And we'll be putting up another sign that actually is the confirmation that the Minjungbal are back in residence on the property, and that the development it's part of a way bigger plan and bigger picture that we've got, which is to show a different paradigm and a different way to live. And this is just another part of it, another milestone we've achieved over the last 4.5 years. So for anyone that this resonates with, they should certainly get in contact with us and come and visit the property and say hello, meet Gunham and myself, and yeah, we'll go from there. One of the things that's interesting about this property is the fact that it's taken 4.5 years to get through an enormous amount of torment and turmoil that's been created by, in particular, one person. I won't name that particular person for this exercise, but it's pretty simple that if anyone goes to the Supreme Court of New South Wales and finds numerous judgments against her, you'll find that there's an existing injunction, or 86 of them, against this particular person that prohibits her from saying the lies that she's been telling. But the reality is there has been one naysayer from the very beginning of this project, and in my opinion and others, is that person has been a plant to destroy the community, if at all possible, from inside. She and others incurred a significant amount of costs, and I'm talking more than $700,000 now, probably more than that, closer to $1 million in fines and costs, and what has been 4.5 years of just complete torture for most people who had even the slightest inkling of what we were trying to do and achieve here. We've been through every type of investigation you can. Audits, we've had the police investigation, we've had ASIC investigation, I've had insurance investigation. I spent 2 days in the witness box in the Supreme Court of New South Wales answering every single question. Not one single thing, not one was proven to be correct. Moving forward, the community, the people that are here that want to operate and how this actually goes, is the governance is handled within the shareholders agreement. The actual day-to-day of the operation, how you go, what you do with gates and loose cows and other things that is developed, not unlike what we've done with this particular person. We've taken hold of all of the legacy issues that we've had, we've brought it all together as a learning experience, and we've actually tightened up every area of the business of what will be this community, to the point that we've had many years of contemplating every angle of the bylaws and the legal structure to get to the point that we are so happy with where we're at, and incorporating that with the cultural protocols, which has been written by one of the members here as Binna. It's the basis of how then the document operates moving forward. So the bylaws are very, very important, and everyone gets a copy of those supplied up front when they decide, or if they're invited to join. And we've tightened up the criteria significantly. You can't just get in here. It doesn't matter how much money you've got unless you are the right person. The money comes and goes. It's going to be spent on the infrastructure in a heartbeat. But we need to live together with the people that were here. So in particular, this one woman and legacy issue has led us to what is a fantastic pre-qualification criteria. There's over 5 hours of interviews as a bare minimum before you'll actually be invited to potentially join the community and the company and become part of this, because this is home now. We bought this back a few days ago. We've taken the sign down, and this is country that we will never ever have to leave from. It's been reclaimed and returned to the tribal people and the Minjungbal in conjunction with what our plans are for the development. So coming on as a shareholder, you come on board and you become part of the tribe. Literally, you treaty with the tribe, and then once you you've been here, you've shown that you are genuinely worthy of being part of the tribe moving forward forever. Is that the opportunity to be adopted and become fully tribal is 100% available to anyone that buys in here. I'm honoured and humbled to be asked to be one of the first to be adopted into the tribe. There's two of us, and that's Rich, Moat and myself, to be invited in. That's a very special thing. This area of the land, the village area of the community, which contains a lot of the titles, which will expand a little bit more on as far as the approvals here are already in existence, and the marked out area for this land is pretty specific as far as the design and the interface from here to Kyoga Road, and essentially what we would term as the matrix. So it's one of the areas the community will be interfacing with the matrix.
So from that perspective, on the front block, we've already got, as AB mentioned, 424 sites approved. That includes your residential, commercial, retail. So where we are roughly here, we're currently in the centre of this first block, but the boundary is roughly where the trees meet the track behind us.
This is the front part of the property. There are some burial grounds close by, which we've got to ensure that people understand to stay away from and respect. Nowhere near where the housing is proposed or anything, but just so that there is no issue, everything gets clearly marked, everyone gets told, shown, and taught how to properly appreciate the sites.
It's interesting that is actually played out a number of times, as we were here with a couple of the elders last smoking ceremony, and we hold Welcome to Country here. It's one of the places that we do it, and he said this is the area the burial grounds are. So then when we went and had a look at the overlay of the maps from environmental to tribal to construction and all of the other stuff, is that there was no housing designed to go into that area. So even way back in that original DA, the land was teaching people, even though most people didn't understand it way back then as to the DA, it was teaching people where to go and where to be prosperous here. So we're very pleased with the size of this particular commercial entity, and it will be, if you buy into the company, which is the community, you are a shareholder, and you are you're an owner of everything that the community owns, the company owns. So yeah, this is the first part of the village.
Yeah, it's just up here on the left, at 10 metres.
Okay, for perspective as far as orientation goes, that's Sphinx Rock is what it's known locally as, and it is purportedly the largest rose quartz crystal on the earth, is what we were told when we bought in. And talking to the tribal elders of the area, they say it's a very sacred and special area and mountain. So Gunham is the name.
Bulgini, from this side it's Bulgini.
So the location of which way you look at the land is very important, and it also it denotes many different things, in fact, from each direction. So
from the eastern side, it's Urubal or the dingo dreaming. The relevance of the land on either side of the peak itself is different, so it has a different name and a different perspective from either side. So Bulgini is the name from this side, and Bulgini is the name of the wind that blows through there, across the top and through the two peaks.
This is one of our guys who's a shareholder. These are the cabins and stuff that examples that he has built, or he's worked on. The company that he worked with builds them, and he's actually set up his own company doing very similar things, but they are works of art, and then they'll be built with the timber off of the land. So we have several $1 million worth of timber on the farm at this stage. That's perfectly designed for this type of bush construction, and we've got shareholders on site who will build these cabins, either specially made or pre-ordered, and you can see the quality of the finishes in these things. So they can start as and these guys are steel framed, of course, but you can have them to any specifications you like. Just amazing individual one-off creations these are. This is essential for certainly my wife and most other ladies, as a flushing toilet, and the ability to have these things, like for example with that system I spoke of before, the Talex system is totally doable, where the water comes out and can be used back on country. Internal heating, so you'll never run out of timber on the farm, that's for sure. Yeah. So on country, where there is power on here, so there's 3-phase power right down to the community sheds, and there was a big community workshop designed for that particular building around the community centre. There will be power to those areas, but then we'll have the solar that goes with it. But the other solar stuff is all...
Yeah, so you can do your own solar, reduce your bill.
Well, these trees here, like the forestry area of the property, the state government is requiring that between 1 in 3 or between 33 and 66% of these trees are to be removed, the plantations to be thinned out. But we will ultimately, we plan to remove all of them, ultimately, and replace the boring monoculture plantation type forestry with the original growth. It's an 80-year project, which will be, there's a couple of community groups that have indicated an extreme interest in assisting.
In particular with the focus on medicine plants as well, stuff that will actually be a beneficial native crop from the area. So,
well, there's a lot of native medicines in this area here. It's not a matter of having to go look for the stuff, but there's 2,400 acres here at the back of the property that was turned into a forest by the state government, and they walked away from it. And they're now saying that the timber has to be thinned and this has to be done, blah, blah. So rather than mess around with a plantation forest, clear the lot and back plant it to the way it should be, back to the original species.
As with what goes on within the community, though, is that this is just an opportunity for us. This is a fantastic opportunity to not only repair and repatriate the land to make good, from the karmic bank account, if you want to look at that, generating the land, but all of the timber that's been grown here, all of the energy that's gone into this timber is actually going to go back into the building of all of the infrastructure. So we're sitting here with the energy from the land surrounding us. This is an example of the structures that we've got on here, and I think there's more than half a dozen of these in existence, and this timber is the type of stuff we can do. So from a community's perspective, we have unlimited resources. Unlimited. How many acres is there, I think, in total of the timber that we've got to access at the moment?
Well, currently it's up to $9 million worth, I think, of purely the blackbutt. Plus there's the gum as well.
And the tallow wood.
And then, of course, there's parts that remain untouched, the property that have got ancient trees on them, particularly out
will not be touched. Nothing.
Amazing.
None of the original stuff gets touched.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And at the end of the day, the best part about it is that it is being converted back to original stands. That's the part that I love. Monoculture plantations do so much damage to the country. They eliminate plant species, they eliminate biologies, ecosystems, they just destroy country.
So we think the solution we've got, which is to use it back in country as well, everything that comes off of the trees will be mulched back in through the earth. So the timber will be built. If you buy into an area that you love and it's got forested space like this, what happens is you get to clear an acre. You have to clear an acre as far as the fire and all of the other requirements are concerned, but that's about it's a reasonable amount of land to actually have to look after. That timber you can use all of it to go back into your house, or none of it, and then once it's cleared it can go into the community structure, which is where the sawmill is, and that timber then gets processed, ready for other community members who might not actually get a land with plantation timber on it. They might be somewhere out on the front facing Kyogle Road where you've got pole homes and so forth. Well, every community member will get an allowance of timber. So from that perspective, it is, as a shareholder, it's all of our resource. This sort of stuff is produced by it, and then you'll see other areas. They come in and they set up the scaffolding and they drop the tree and they process it in one go.
So they did it in the old days.
Yeah.
You didn't have to buy a house, you just built it.
That's it. Yeah, you shouldn't have to keep paying to live here, huh?
That's right.
Shouldn't have to. But that doesn't fit with the matrix.
No.
To its tribal name when translated as a cloud catcher. So this is an example of the views that a majority of the northerly facing sites will have on their outlook. So currently from here, as the tree meets the skyline to your right hand side, and following that ridge all the way across before the change in shrubbage, that's roughly the border of the land currently.
The top of Wallumbany is the men's business area. Much closer down to the bottom is one of the women's law areas. But that mountain has never been Crown land. The Crown have never taken ownership or sovereignty over this continent. From the second that Arthur Phillip stuck his toe in the sand to walk up the beach, he subjected himself to our law. And under our law, the claim that he subsequently made after trespassing was made contrary to the law of the land, which clearly defines that the only people who have a right to title over any of the estates on this continent are in fact the tribal people with a bloodline connection to the particular parcel of land. Each tribe has their own boundaries. We are separate sovereign tribes. It's effectively, Australia was a continent much like Europe. It was made up of a collection of sovereign states or sovereign countries or sovereign tribes. There's no difference. We don't acknowledge the fact that the British claim to have used what they call flag law to make a claim under the laws of a foreign government on our soil, much the same as I suppose Australians would suggest that China doesn't have the right to come and steal it from them. They never had the right to steal it from us to start with. They certainly did not comply with the law of the land. They certainly did not comply with their orders and directions given by the English Parliament. And the monarch of the United Kingdom Parliament certainly has never been recognised by the owners of this country as having any claim to it. So it's as simple as that. They can argue, if they want to argue. We would be more than happy to appear in any forum that is an independent forum, that is televised to the world, and they can put their case and we'll put ours, and we'll let the people decide. Anytime they would like to sit down and do this publicly in full view of the world, we're happy to do it. It might change some people's opinions when they hear the truth. But like I said, that mountain there, that's never been Crown land, and it's not Crown land now. The tribes have owned it since time immemorial. The title, once we do the deal with the forestry area, the title will extend to about 15%, 20% up the foot of Mount Warning. And that then gives us all of the law grounds, all of the ceremonial grounds, all that is all protected into the future. The only reason I got involved was purely to protect those sites. You know, there's some people out there taking the piss out of me saying I got involved for various reasons. That's the reason I got involved, and anybody who's been around since the beginning of all this knows that that's why I got involved.
Water driven? Any water driven?
No, not at the moment, but the bore is 32 metres beneath us. It's ancient artesian basin. It's like an aquifer that goes into the artesian basin. They say it's 22,000-year-old water. I don't know how you would work that out. But the reality is that is 32 metres beneath us. It is unlimited water right now. So there's areas of the property that don't have access to it. Like we're at the moment probably about 160 metres above sea level, and it goes to 200, so we've got quite a high property, which is important to a lot of people as far as height's concerned. Then you won't get the more that you will down on Kyogle Road at 32 metres beneath it. So what we'll do at the moment, I'm investigating just purchasing a water truck, and then that water truck will fill up either from other water sources around the area, from the dam or on the property, or from the water bores that will drill all over the property, and we'll fill the community members' tanks that don't have access to the water bore themselves. So
What about roof water?
So they'll also have the ability to collect the water from rainwater tanks and so forth. But if, for example, in a drought situation or it hasn't rained for 6 months, then you've got access because the whole farm is yours. So it's your water at the front anyway. So the community would own a water truck, and somebody comes in, who wants to drive that water truck will be paid to do so. And they'll just drive around. Their day will be delivering free water or their own water to their own, community members and shareholders who don't have it. This here at the moment, we will use to set up the infrastructure on the property. Like we've got 3-phase power down here at the big blue shed. We've got a machinery shed. We've got a workshop. So we've got plans for a sacred geometry tribal pub, the service station that we already own the current town that's there. Mount Burrell, but that we want to upgrade the service station, the supermarket, the bottle shop. We want to open the pub. So there's a whole heap of stuff that's planned for this area. This is actually the reason we stopped here. This is Central Hill. This is the centre of the property. This is actually where the main community centre is going to be. So you've got the border ranges here, and the pinnacle's just appearing there. You'll see as we go down, the dam is over here, over this side. You'll see that that's the area that we'll actually have as the main sort of community hub.
Down here at Tallowood Dam, which is over 1.2 kilometres long, wrapping all the way along, and behind us we also have the log cabin, which they put together in roughly a week, I was told, from the trees coming down to the final structure being completed.
It's a good example of what you can actually do with the timber off the block, if that was the type of thing you're after.
Yeah.
You mentioned log cabins before, didn't you?
Yeah. It looks like a good spot to live.
There are more dams planned for us to do smaller dams in the area so that we actually have access to contain the water and to capture it and use it for irrigation, all the other sorts of things. But in particular, this is an amazing community space. We want to keep the waterways, the dams, for kids to come down and swim. There's a slide that in summertime they put a tarp down there and shoot off and they jump into the water and stuff. So this is
That'd be fantastic
for us, and then the other existing dam on there will always remain part of the community to access, come down. There, our intention is to have canoes and all other water stuff down, activities down here. People will come and just hang, just enjoy it. It's all our property,
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I love the fact that you can make your own log cabin from the trees that are here.
The plantation timber is all dead straight. It's, and it's all fairly uniform size, and it's great for doing that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's not unlimited resource, but almost. I mean, we couldn't build enough structures to use up all of the timber on the property.
Use the timber from the land that you clear to put your house on.
Exactly.
Can do,
Yeah.
Like they did in the old days.
100%. That area just down here will be a beach. Dump a few layers of sand, some river sand in there to make it easy. We've got some ideas, some concept like organic pools, amazing stuff with ponds that turn out to be organic pools. It's one of the paradigm shifts that you've got. The bylaws prohibit you from having a saltwater pool or a chlorinated pool on country because all of that water that is then toxic, acid, treated chemicals, it all then has to go somewhere, and you own. It's not like in the city where you just put it into the sewer and it just disappears and goes out into the ocean and oh well, too bad, so sad. It stays on your country and you own all of the country, and eventually it ends up in here.
So it's a long way down.
It's a long way down.
Yeah.
So how high would you reckon we up from that to the creek level?
Too high to walk?
Yeah. So it could be as deep as 50 feet in there at the moment. It's a very, very deep, and it's a massive amount of water, and it's a kilometre long. So as far as firefighting and other bits and pieces should win it, but swimming, canoeing, kayaking, coming down with your family, having, not the old style, like the things in Melbourne, but imagine having these sorts of cabins set up that you open up and they've got all of the water equipment in there, and people can come down, have a lifesaver on duty down here, like literally someone gets employed to come down and be a lifesaver.
I don't know, just getting down in the open with your children or whatever.
Imagine that. You say, well, where are the kids today? I don't know. They went down to one of the dams. Plans for that go-kart track. I mean, rev heads like him, the mechanic shop that will be attached to that, and then people that want to come and work on cars and go-karts and all the rest of it are going to love to do that. I want a horse, but I don't want to have to look after a horse. So I love the ability to go down to our equestrian area that we've got marked out. Clearly there's going to be set up stables, and we'll have the ability to have as many horses as we want on this property. But the reality is that you'll get to a number that's applicable for the community to use. I can go down and ride, then I can go home and someone else looks after the horses, because those horses then, it's better for them not to be looked after by people who are begrudgingly having to do it just because they're getting paid. The people that actually move on to the farm, the people that love horses, that want to look after horses, it's all they do. Well, the company, when those positions become available, will pay people to do it. So when you move here, you actually have the ability to get a job in an area of your life that you just have always loved. You always want to do that, and then feeling useful, you're part of the community. And again, it's on an enormous size farm as we are right now, let alone of the other properties. From our perspective, it's a total way of life. You come up here, we want to be self-sufficient and independent, and no, don't need the state. That doesn't mean don't interface and interact with the matrix. Doesn't mean give up your citizenship. It doesn't mean any of that.
So the thing is, there's been people who have been objecting to the project, and what they've done by stalling things is given us the time to actually look at things and reevaluate and reconstruct and change the way we were going to do things. So we've actually ultimately ended up with quite a sound concept.
Yeah, we've had 5 years of preparing for this, so it's unusual. It has happened, but that people can raise a question that we haven't really thought of or got an answer or an alternative for, because it genuinely is an alternative.
Wild, eh?
Now if I hit the right key, it may reverberate even further.
So here we are at one of our amphitheatres. Again, you can see another example of some of the structures that have been put together on the stumps. Actually home of the Aquarius Festival. The town of Nimbin, which is almost 20-minute drive from here, has the name as the home of the Aquarius Festival, but from here it's where it relocated. So panning around down, you see we would have the border ranges, and over to the right we'd have the pinnacle. So we're facing the west and the crystal structure of the mountain behind us, and we're planned to take out all the low growth, slash down through there, and perhaps have another stage as well, so we can rekindle that cultural festivals, gatherings, and again with all of the edibles planted around the sides, in between shows and breaks, people stopping and having healthy food that's grown from our own soil.
So this is the amphitheatre, as Rich was just talking about before. One of the features of this land is actually it tells you where to build and tells you where to develop and where not to. And in particular, this area is the natural amphitheatre has been this way for a long time. So it's actually made up predominantly of the timber that we're going to harvest, and we can have this area set up moving forward. But it was actually one of the places that was in mind when we were talking. We came up with the Yidaki principles, and the Yidaki is the most commonly used term for the didgeridoo, and it's the messaging system, the broadcast system, the delivery of information. And for us, we felt that in particular that term was a good term for these principles. So anytime we do any type of negotiation or a deal of any description, we always take into consideration the 5 principles, and is always the land, and in particular the evidence has been on this property has been amazing, that this is the way to build, this is where you build, and this is how you interact with country. The second one we take into consideration is the tribe, and the local tribe and their laws and their customs and their culture. The third one coming in is the community, the company that you get to buy into as a shareholder, that you get a share certificate of, and you are an owner in everything. But knowing that at this level, these other 2 things are already in place. The fourth thing is then for you, the person buying in, is this the right thing as you do buy in and become a shareholder? And do you want to live somewhere like this?
And in the community.
Yeah, and within the community, and what is the philosophies that you bring to us? Because one of the things that is fleeting is the money that you buy in with, and it's spent on the infrastructure and it's gone. What's left is the connection that we've got between us. And are you like-minded enough to actually assist us to build this vision and this dream, and to get to the point that we've been talking about for a long time, and we've attracted some incredible people.
Get on board and work within the community and feel useful. I mean,
be more than just the individuals. That we've all been taught to be individuals, and the reality is that the mother, everything to do with tribal and ancient way of life was tribe. It was family. It was coming together to achieve a common goal. So, and the last thing out of those principles is the developer as the one building the infrastructure, the one that's doing the development as a project to then deliver to the community. So if all of those things are in place, and again, land, tribe, company or community, whichever way you look at it, both are the same. The person coming in, and then of course the developers. Every deal we've done is like a win-win-win-win-win situation, and then
things are falling into place. Access to water and stuff like that. It's all coming together now. You got the shops up the road and that sort of stuff.
Exactly. Our interface with the matrix, we have that ability to have access to our service station, or the general store, or the cafe, or the caravan park, and the bottle shop, and the plans are to expand way more than what they are currently. As we grow as a community, then exponentially that will grow. And
you can see how that can thrive, and we all are dependent on each other as a community, and not dependent in a way, but you have the need to want to join in and be part of that, feel useful. There's something everyone could do.
Yeah. So that's the amphitheatre and the Yidaki principles.
The fact is that for the last 230 years on this continent, the tribal people have been effectively raped, pillaged, murdered, had our resources stolen from us, etc., etc., etc. And for the last 3 months in this COVID thing, the rest of Australians seem to be waking up slowly to the fact that the corporate government now wishes to do exactly the same thing to them. As a man, not a freeman, not a sovereign citizen, as I said before, it confuses me. I don't get how people can even consider the concept of this thing called a sovereign citizen. How can the sovereign, that is the authority over the citizen, be the citizen, which is the subject of the sovereign?
It's from that perspective, everything that we've been taught has a dual meaning. There is many layers of their language that they know about, and it's something that Gunambari speaks about a lot, is the hidden meanings behind words. I mean, Aboriginal. Are they original or are they aboriginal? Are you normal or am I abnormal? How does that work? And you put those two words together and it's hidden in plain sight. Do you recognise yourself as being tribal or Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander or indigenous of no race? It's all it's hidden in plain sight, set to deceive. And it's also set on an energetic level to do harm. I mean, if you keep saying, you're Aboriginal to someone and they then, yes, I'm Aboriginal, that's a negative reinforcement of an idea or a concept given to them by their masters, by their rulers, by the conquerors that have committed genocide against them for so long.
But in Australia, we've had this issue for the last 230 years that there's been a group of people from another country who claim that because someone rocked up at our doorstep and put a stick with a rag on it in some sand, that he apparently somehow managed to, by that act, wrestle away from us ownership over our estates. That's the lunacy of the history that most people have knowledge of in respect of this continent. The fact is that when Arthur Phillip arrived in what's called Sydney Cove and stuck the stick in the ground with a rag on it, he immediately, the second he put his toe in the sand, he became subject to our law. Our law effectively prohibits anybody making a claim over our lands because each of the tribes respects the fact that you have a blood connection to your tribal land. If you don't have the blood connection to that country, it's not your country. End of story. So ever since they've arrived, they've been bullshitting about their presence here, lying, for example, about the fact that they have discovered houses up to 6,000 years old up in the top end, for example, stone houses. The fact that we have the oldest known records of baking, for example, using our grasses and our seeds to grind up and make flour to cook bread. That many different things that are ignored about this continent that demonstrate that we are, in fact, the people who chose to live the way we chose to live because it was more compatible and sustainable with Mother Nature than it was observant of our personal luxuries.
May be argued, but the reality is that we have proven time and time again in their courts that the tribal people are not recognised by the Constitution, which is the highest law of their law of this land, and the reality is that tribal people of this land, who even though have taken up the citizenship of the Australian government when offered, didn't give up, renounce or retire in any way, shape or form, separate themselves from their true blood tie and birthright to this country. So there are, the High Court has ruled, they are non-citizens and non-aliens. So now the time has come for, again, this opportunity, this awakening of COVID to rethink that paradigm about dealing with the tribal people of this land. They're not Aboriginals, they're not the stereotypical stuff that's been put out there, and the crimes, the genocide that's been created against them for generations and hundreds of years is horrific. Still going on today. Police still murder tribal people in jail because they can. No one cares about that other than the tribal people, and it's one of those things that paradigm has to change, and that lack of humanity has been put onto the tribal people now for, as I say, hundreds of years. What this COVID is doing, this is imposing all of those things back on to white fellas now. So the citizens, they are going to be oppressed, repressed, depressed, suppressed forever now. They are essentially now the Aboriginals, as far as that's concerned. We're not, we're tribal. We step out of that paradigm, and we would hope that that people can get that understanding, because then when you come from a place of love and respect for people who've been here for 50,000 years, they know so much about this country and this land that we do not know anything about. So it's you know, we're like sponges, and we should be absorbing the information that goes with it, because if you have any understanding of the realm, the reality that we live in, there's so much more beyond what we see, the 3D image, the realm that we've got, you know.
Everything about what they said about us is an absolute, utter lie. And the records are about to be righted. The tribal peoples of this continent maintain our right as the sovereign peoples of this continent. We've never acquiesced that. We have taken up the option to become Australian citizens, but we haven't acquiesced at any point in time our rights to our tribal capacity and our tribal rights, which includes our sovereignty over our country. We get people saying to us, oh, you know, blackfellas should get over it. But they want to celebrate Anzac Day. You know what I mean? When do you get over that? You know? It's like the hypocrisy is unreal. Oh, what's that, mate?
Blackberries.
Yeah, we got them over home. We've got raspberries at home too.
Are these raspberries or blackberries?
They're raspberries, I think. We'll look at them. We haven't, it hasn't been cold, so they might be a bit tart yet. But yeah, that's wild raspberries.
Yeah,
Condongs, guavas, cherry guavas.
But you don't have a manifest of blackberries like a lot of places have.
No. So nice.
Might be a little bit tart, because the colder it gets, the sweeter they get.
That's so sweet.
Nice, eh?
Here we are down at the area we affectionately call Van Dam, named after Peter, the white holder who approached the developers. Now, as we move across, you can see that this man-made dam actually goes all the way around what now is a man-made island in the centre. So when I first came on country and I saw that with the family name of Moat, I wanted to be the first moat to actually have a moat, and I said to the team, in terms of chronological spots, would there be the chance of having one on there? Again, part of the Adarki principle is it has to be right by the community. So all of the sites which are down on the water are held back exclusively for the community. So there'll be communal use, communal access. That's not to say that there aren't some sites, including at least half a dozen up the slope on the way down from the amphitheatre, which could be looking down on the water. But in terms of immediate access, that's held back for the whole community.
Down here is Van Dam, is just off the bottom of that ridge. Is that the aim will be to get this to a really beautiful swimming and recreation area, not unlike the other dam, but this one goes around this island. If we can, as far as the planning and development stages go, and it looks like we are able to at the moment, make this a footbridge across here and build camp kitchens in here. So from when you start, you might be building your place and coming down every couple of weekends, or you might not get here for a month or two. You can come here to a fully functioning, set up camp kitchen area. There might be bunk beds or arrangements to put tents over there. Set it up so it's a staging area for people as they come into the community to start to build. And then once the community is complete, we take that area and we make it entirely recreational, with camp kitchens all over the place converted into more permanent barbecue or fixture kitchens that people can come down and spend the day and have your own little area, but also community area as far as the facilities are concerned. So, and then dealing with any of the waste and or trash that comes off there, comes across the footbridge and is collected at the central point that we've got for waste and collection systems at the moment. So this is a really picturesque and beautiful place now, but as far as the opportunity is concerned, it could be phenomenal. It will be phenomenal. With it, exactly. No, exactly right. And that is the idea. The entire development is the same, as that we take care of the land. I mean, the tribal principles, the culture, its starting point is do no harm, and that can be related to every single facet of this development. So, yeah, it's absolutely fundamental to it. There's one of those silver-shouldered kestrels. We rarely see them, and that's always a sign of the old people. It just flew into the top of the tree just there. Yeah. It's the old people watch you through the eyes of the